Well, hey folks, welcome back to the New Hampshire Cabin Project. Today I'm going to be installing a drainage system for my sink and my shower. A couple years ago I posted a video where I was doing the same thing at my cabin in upstate New York, but on that project I installed a bio chamber, which I will be discussing a little bit further in this video. On this project here, I'm down to the nitty-gritty and I'm really starting to pinch my pennies. So I'll show you how I'm installing a drainage system here and doing it on the cheap. Okay, in a normal household, the discharge line comes from the house and it drains into a septic tank. The septic tank has a baffle in it, so when the tank fills up, all of the solids remain in the tank and only liquid is discharged through the drainage line. This flows into a distribution box, which allows the liquids to be distributed into the leach field at equal amounts. In most states, your average leach field consists of a 1,000-gallon tank and 200 feet of leach line. Whether this is just one line 200 feet long, or two lines 100 feet long, or four at 50, so on and so forth, all depends upon the septic design. But for a small gray water system for a cabin, none of this is needed. So here at the cabin, I have an outhouse and a composting toilet. So a septic system like I just described isn't needed. All I need here is a sufficient place for my gray water to drain into. Just having it spill on the ground isn't a good idea because eventually it's going to attract pests to the cabin that I don't want. Just spilling grease and food particles, it's going to attract vermin, flies, it's going to start to stink. I don't want any of that around the cabin. What I need is it to disperse underground, not freeze up into winter, and to keep on working. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my experiences in the past with different types of drainage systems. I'm going to share just a little bit of information for folks that have little to no understanding of basic plumbing techniques. Quite often folks will ask why a plumber does this and doesn't just have the pipe go straight down. Well, the purpose that this serves, this is the trap. And it's called that because water gets trapped in here. And that water prevents all the stinky gases from coming up into your house from your leach field. Because if it was just a straight pipe, the gases would come up and vent into your sink and shower drains, and it wouldn't smell very good in your house. So the stink can't pass through the water. So when the water comes flushing down, it pushes all of this water out, but a little will always feed back in here. And that keeps all that gas from getting into your house. I prefer to use the traps that have the drain plug. They cost a little bit more money than the ones without, but it's only $1 or $2. And this will enable me to drain this when I go away in the winter. You can also dump a little bit of antifreeze down into your pipe in the winter just to keep this with antifreeze. But I always try to remember just to unscrew this and let it drain out, and I haven't had any problems yet. Now, how well your system will work will be determined by many things. What is your system being used for? Is it just a shower drain? Or are you dumping a lot of greasy dishwater in it? How often is it being used? Is it a cabin you use a few times a year, or someplace that you go there quite frequently? What the composition of the soil is like, how high the water table is, etc., etc. Back when I lived in my first cabin, back in the 80s, I had a bottomless barrel. I shot it full of holes, sunk it in the ground, I surrounded it with stones, and my sink drained into that, and it worked great for over a decade. That cabin sat on top of a knoll. It was high and dry. The drainage was great. I had no issues. My other cabin I did the same thing. It only lasted a couple of years before I had problems. I put in another one of the same type of system, bottomless barrel. It failed again after a couple of years. I put in another one, same deal. I'd get really no more than 2 years out of it. Let's look at a couple of diagrams, talk about the pros and cons of the system that I'm using now. The most common type of gray water system for a backwoods cabin is nothing more than a barrel put in the ground. The barrel will be full of holes. It helps if there's no bottom on the barrel. It's surrounded with stones, and the gray water is dropped into it. All of this is put below grade. If you have good drainage soil and you're not dumping a whole lot of greasy water into it, and it's only used occasionally, this type of system will work for quite a while. With the vertical barrel technique, the soil around it tends to get saturated with grease, and then they fill up with water, and that's when it becomes problematic. With the biochambers, the water is dispersed much quicker. If it didn't work as good as it does, it wouldn't be the mandatory requirements for household septic systems. To save on the expense of using biochambers, I cut a barrel in half lengthwise and then cut a radius out of the end of each barrel half. Then I cut the filler hole large enough to accept the discharge line coming from the cabin. The next step is to dig a trench large enough and deep enough so that the chambers can be buried with at least 10 inches of dirt. I don't have the Kubota up on this project, but I do have a border collie, and he's always willing to get in on the dig. It looks like I'm not the only one that needs a bath tonight, Frankie. Now that I have the trench all full of stone, this is the drain that goes back to that pipe there. I'm going to put the 2 half barrels with the flat side down, and then I'm going to bury them over. Adding stone to the trench isn't absolutely necessary, but I do feel it helps with the drainage. I don't have any crushed stone available up here, so I'll have to use what I have on hand. The next step is to lay in the barrels and secure them into position with a few stones. Then I put the second barrel in with the cut ends facing each other like I'm showing here. I'll use some of this old tar paper to keep dirt from filtering down between the 2 barrel sections. Then I'll lay in a bunch of stone along the side to lock the barrels in place before I bury them. In the future, if I ever have trouble with the leach field not draining properly, I don't have to dig any of this up. I can just start digging at the end of the second barrel. Anything that was backed up will drain on through. I'll add another length or 2 of barrel. It should last a good long time, if not the rest of my life. Yeah, it's been a heck of a job, but I got her done. Before I buried that up, I packed in a lot of stone along the side of those chambers and then packed a bunch of dirt over it. Over time, the dirt will filter down between all those stones, create a really nice hard shell for that. I can walk over it, probably drive a quad over it okay. As long as I stay off of it with a heavy vehicle, it should last a good long time. It's been a long day. I'm a filthy mess. I'm going to give it a test run with a nice hot shower. So I hope you enjoyed the video. All the best to you. God bless.